Okay, it's Monday, October 31st. This is a pre-opening SPY report. This is the last day of the month, and you can see here to start the session after yesterday's or Friday's pretty big green bar to the upside. Our pre-opening range is kind of near the top of that bar yesterday. So I'm still anticipating kind of at some point testing the highs of this bar. It doesn't mean that we can't start a little lower as prices sort of dropping a little bit. A lot of times, again, that's a good opportunity. If you really had strong momentum to the upside, then you like these lower openings to eventually get long and knowing you're going to take out that high. In this case, we've had a pretty big uptrend already. We have some exhaustion risk in place, so I don't know if we're going to get a lot of momentum. I'm not necessarily expecting all kinds of momentum to the upside, but nevertheless, I do expect that high to be tested. Now, what you could get today is something like, well, I'd have to go back and look. In other words, if you're going to get a big down bar, normally those will start below the mid, after a green action, you start below the midpoint of a prior day and immediately start lower. You could have something like this today where it's green, and then you have more of an inside bar that tries to move up a little bit, but really can't move down. I'm trying to find a good example where it really doesn't get below. Here's one where you start above the high of yesterday and immediately get rejected. It doesn't look like we're going to do that. It looks like we're going to be starting more near the bottom of this pre-market range. But there are a few days where you get kind of an inside day after a big move. What's going to happen there is you kind of maybe start up and not really go too strong to the upside, or you might start down a little bit below this pre-market range but not really go much lower, but not have enough momentum to really get much higher, and it's more of an inside day. If that starts to develop and we'll see early price action, then it's the type of day to kind of just expect a lot of choppiness and to be on a very short-term basis selling high moves and buying low moves, but we'll see if that happens intraday today. In terms of just where, if we open a little lower and head lower, I was kind of looking back at, it was kind of an inefficient pricing day just because it started up all day on Friday. So there is a little gap here right in this area. You know, you can see stops and a little gap here where it might want to fill in if we move a little lower, but not at that point. If we get down there, you're kind of right. I'm not going to call it the midway point of the prior day, but somewhere near here where that could be all it goes and then doesn't really follow through. So if you get some kind of big red opening, again, I'm not going to be surprised if it doesn't follow through all that much. It doesn't mean it's going to be the greatest buy opportunity to immediately head back up to those highs again if we go if we go kind of much lower. But I'm pretty much looking, if we open lower, for a red to green kind of a play and see how that can unfold. Let's say we have this kind of activity here and we start red, then any kind of green move, I'd expect to take out this. You look in the pre-market highs this high and then see if we can work our way up to that level. That'll be the target. So let's just see. More importantly today is how the month ends, because it's probably going to be a big green month. So I think at some point you'll follow through a little higher into November. The weekly bar being a big green weekly bar, some point this week I still expect it to test higher a little bit. I don't know if it's going to be today or not. But we'll keep that in mind. So until conditions really change, I'm not looking for any big downward move. I'd look for those, any downward choppiness, to look for opportunities to buy still early into this month. We do have some big, reports this week, FOMC, and there's other things happening news-wise. So, but nevertheless, that usually will be incorporated in the pre-market activity, whatever news comes out, or 1 o'clock or something like that on Wednesday. But we'll worry about that then. So anyway, let's just see how we open here. Kind of a little bit of a downward move after this big move up, which is kind of fine, just to consolidate and eventually at some point push higher. Some of the ways that looks is like this. You had a big green bar on this day, and then you kind of opened red, and then you went green and immediately tested higher. When you have a big green day this way and you gap up, a lot of times you pull back first before you head higher. So this type of day, it looks like more of a consolidation move to start the session that at some point you try to move higher, but we'll just have to see if we can really get above yesterday. How if we do go higher, how much momentum might kick in above this green bar. It might be more of a consolidation day, but we'll just find out given how things open.